Okay, good morning, everyone. We will call this meeting to order. This is the Vancouver City Council meeting of Tuesday, March 11, 2025, and apologies for the delay. Just to let anyone who is watching this online, our city streaming is disabled currently, but the stream is available through our YouTube channel. Just look up City of Vancouver. So this meeting is being convened by in person and by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, City of Vancouver electronic meetings. And as such, council members and the public may participate in person or by electronic means. If a council member attending by electronic means loses connection during the voting process, team members are available to get you back online quickly while the voting process is suspended. Team members' contact information has been circulated to you. Video of council members speaking, presentations, and vote results will be projected on the live stream when available. Council members are reminded that in accordance with Section 14.13 of the Procedure Bylaw, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. In the case of an emergency where we need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are two exits beyond the glass doors and to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the four exits in this chamber, and please use the stairs. Do not use the elevator. If you require accessibility assistance, please remain at your location and wait for a security staff member to guide you to a safe location. I would also like to highlight that there is a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside the council chamber. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, and we thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. And I also want to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver's team members who work hard every day to help make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge that this past Saturday, March 8th, it was International Women's Day. And I feel lucky to work with such inspiring women on council and through our city. 2 weeks ago, we recognized International Women's Day in part through the proclamation of Women Behind the Sound Day, recognizing the incredible achievements and contributions of Vancouver's arts and culture community by women leaders in the music industry. So I want to take this moment to wish my colleagues on council and everyone in the City of Vancouver a belated Happy International Women's Day. So today we have three administrative items: an in-camera motion, adoption of minutes, and matters adopted on consent. Very good. I will do the roll call now. Oh, pardon me, I've jumped a page here. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Acting Mayor Klassen in the chair. Mayor Sim is on a leave of absence for personal reasons from 9:30 till noon. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Present.
Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly.
Present.
Councillor Fry. Councillor Montague.
Present.
Councillor Meisner. Councillor Joe. You have quorum, Acting Mayor Klassen.
Thank you very much, Clerk. Any comments on agenda items can be sent to council using the web form on the city's website. A link to that form will be posted on X, Van City Clerk. I also want to note that the City of Vancouver's long-standing commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including the utmost respect for all genders. I remind council that when addressing the speakers and the city's team members, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and we will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. Now, we have three administrative items on the agenda: an in-camera motion, adoption of minutes, and matters adopted on consent. One item of unfinished business, 7 reports and 7 referral reports, 20 bylaws, 1 administrative motions, notice of council members' motions, new business, and inquiries and other matters. Today we will break noon for lunch, followed by the in-camera meeting, and then we will return at 3 p.m. to continue to deal with the remainder of the agenda. And we will adjourn by 5 as we have public hearing at 6 p.m. Council is required to meet in camera later this week. The reasons and authority for this are under the Vancouver Charter are listed in the agenda. Would someone like to move a motion to go in camera later this week? A move by Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Montague. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Minutes 1 are from the Special Auditor General Committee meeting of February 13th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would somebody like to move the adoption? Moved by Councillor Dominato and seconded by Councillor Meisner. All those in favor, please say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thanks very much. Minutes 2 are from the Auditor General Committee report meeting on February 13th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move adoption?
Moved by Councillor Bly and seconded by Councillor Montague. Any discussion? All those in favor, say yay. Okay.
Chair.
Those opposed?
Chair, I believe that was Councillor Kirby-Young that moved
Oh,
it.
sorry, Councillor Kirby-Young. My apologies. And,
No worries.
that motion carries unanimously. Minutes 3 are from the council meeting of February 25th and 27th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would anyone like to move adoption? Councillor Dominato, seconded. Councillor Montague. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right. Minutes 4 from public hearing on February 12th, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Somebody like to move adoption? Councillor Montague, seconded by Councillor Dominato. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right. Minutes 5 are from the council meeting following the Standing Committee on Policy and Strategic Priorities on February 26, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? And would somebody like to move adoption, please? Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Minutes 6 are from the public hearing of February 27, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Councillor Montague, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay. Council will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have reports 3, 5, 6, and 7, and referral reports 1 to 7 on the consent agenda, and we will hold reports 1, 2, and 4 to hear from speakers. Council may adopt recommendations for the report 3, 5, 6, and 7, and referral reports 1 to 7 on consent. Does any member or team member wish to hold any? And I see Councillor Dominato is on the queue. Councillor Dominato.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to hold referral report number 3, the Jericho Lens Development Plan, for some procedural questions.
Very good. Thanks very much. Okay. All right. So we will hold item 3, report 3, I should say. So nobody's else on the queue. Before we consider the consent agenda, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to disclose? Okay, we have reports. I'll read them out again here. 5, 6, 7, and referral reports 1 through 7. And for consent, would somebody like to move adoption of recommendations before?
Sorry,
seconded
Chair.
by
Just a
Councillor.
point of privilege. I think it was.
Councillor Montague. I'll put hang on a second.
Sorry, you just mentioned that referral report 3 was being adopted on consent. I think Councillor Dominato wanted that held, and it was. And then report 3 did not get pulled. It was referral report 3.
Thank you.
Was referral report? Oh, my apologies. Okay, so we'll have to fix that. So we have reports 3, 5, 6, and 7. Referral reports 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Is that clear? All right. All right. Somebody would like to move adoption of the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Montague, seconded by Councillor Dominato. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. So the following items have been approved on consent. The report, sorry, 1 sec. 3, 5, okay. Report 3, commemorative plaque for Ian Neville. Report 5, closure and lease of a portion of road adjacent to 4065 Victoria Drive. Report 6, Annual Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, Union of British Columbia Municipality, BCM, and Lower Mainland Local Government Association, LMLGA, membership fees for 2025 and 2026. And refer reports 1 through 7, which are, one is, and item 7 too, report 7, Auditor General Committee Recommendations Transmittal Report, and referral reports 1, CD 125, Amendment 3215, McDonald Street, referral report 2, CD1 Rezoning 816 to 860 West 13th, and 2915 and 2925 Willow Street. Are 4 CD1 rezoning, 1551, 1581 West 7th Avenue, referral report 5 rezoning, 1568 West 75th Avenue, and 9123 Bentley Street, report 6, referral report 6 CD1 rezoning, 225 West 8th Avenue, and referral report 7 CD1 rezoning, 461 to 479 East 16th Avenue. Okay, we have one item of unfinished business on the agenda today. It is the CD1 rezone 4575 West 10th Avenue. At the public hearing of February 25th, 2025, Council closed the speakers and receipt of public comments and referred closing comments, questions to staff, debate and decision to Council meeting on March 11th, 2025 as unfinished business. Council members who were absent for this item at the public hearing will need to confirm that they reviewed the proceedings they missed and are therefore eligible to participate in discussion and decision. Councillors Bly and Dominato were absent for this item. Councillor Bly, have you reviewed the proceedings and you missed, and will you be participating in the debate and discussion and decision?
I have not and will not.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Dominato, same question to you. Very good. Okay. Does any applicant, do we have applicant team here? We do not have applicant team members. We do. All right. Applicant team members have any closing comments?
Good morning. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Council members, you have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of staff. Are there any questions? Please note, no questions to or comments from the applicant are not permitted at this stage of the process. So I will to Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify and just reconfirm that I understood correctly. There were some questions posed and also raised by speakers about a mid-block crossing in front of the site. And could you just reiterate sort of the considerations around that? I think I heard that that's not what we're contemplating at this time, but there are some traffic improvements. And if you could just reflect those back today. Thank you.
Councillor Dominato. I'm Scott, Rezoning planner, but I'll defer these questions to my colleague Paul in engineering.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Good morning, Paul Storer, Director of Transportation. Thank you for the question. Yes, the development site is delivering a number of improvements, including newer, wider sidewalks, curb and gutter, pedestrian ramps, lane crossings, street lighting, street reconstruction, a public bike share station, and upgrading the 2 signals at Tolney and Sasamat. so on either side of the development. These are going to be big improvements to how people are able to cross 10th Avenue in the area. They didn't identify the need for a mid-block pedestrian crossing as part of their analysis of the development. And when we look at where mid-block crossings are the most useful, typically it's when you have really strong desire lines across the street that kind of can't be met by those adjacent signals. So we also didn't recommend installing one as part of the development.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate there's some improvements there. One other question. I was on the transportation side, so don't go away, Paul. In meeting with members of the community in the past, there were considerations raised about speed traveled on 10th, and obviously, as we add, more people, there's more people walking, potentially even some more vehicles. Has that been looked at as well in the context of this development, or is that separate from this work?
As kind of earlier in the development process, the BIA and the Friends of Point Grey Village wrote to the city, kind of talking about some of the things they were seeing. My staff and I met with them a couple times, first to kind of hear those concerns. And then following that, we kind of through the first half of 2024, we did a number of studies, kind of looking both at collision history and at speeds along the street. And kind of met with them again to walk through kind of what we'd found and look for kind of short-term improvements. Basically, what we found on 10th Avenue was neither higher than usual collision history, given the circumstances, or more speeding than we would see on another street. Most of the vehicles were below the speed limit.
Thank you. I'll pause there. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Councillor Fry.
Thanks. Actually, this is for you too, Paul, I think. There's been some, we heard comments about concerns for the truck.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a point of procedure. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Councillor Fry, but I have a point of procedure. I thought we had concluded questions and we had referred them on debate and decision. Can we get clarification as to where we are? Because I thought Council had already had our 2 rounds of questions. Can I just get clarification? And I'm sorry to interrupt, Councillor Fry. I just wanted to clarify where we are.
Councillor, just to reiterate, which was read a little bit earlier, that at the public hearing on February 25th, 2025, Council closed the speakers list and receipt of public comments and referred closing comments, questions to staff, debate, and decision to the Council meeting on March 11, 2025 as unfinished business.
So we're on debate and decision, and then if councillors are asking, do you want to follow up on that, Chair, if I might, then if councillors are asking questions, that's a point of information through you, Chair, and our debate and decision time.
Questions? Yeah, certainly questions. Sorry. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so questions to, so we have referred closing comments, questions to staff, and debate and decision. So we're at the point now where questions can be asked through the chair to staff. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Sorry for the interruption, Councillor Craft.
Thank you.
And,
Right.
and to be clear, I don't think those questions need to be asked of through the chair. They're direct to staff, just for clarification.
Councillor Fry.
Okay, thanks. And the truck access has come up in some of the comments and concerns. And I know it's referenced in there as a subsequent kind of consideration. And maybe this isn't you. Maybe what are the anticipated changes to improve the truck access for the loading?
Right, so what we tried to do with truck access in new development is to kind of take it not directly off the arterial street, but as close as possible to that. If there's a lane system, it would come off the lane. So in this case, they are providing all the required loading, and they're taking it off of, I think, a combination of Sassanat, and only the main loading is off Sassanat. Yeah, and that we expect that loading will work well. There's going to be a full traffic signal at Sassanat that will allow trucks in and out without impacting the neighborhood overall.
Okay, and we're confident that we're not going to have big refrigerator trucks and that kind of thing, making lots of diesel and.
Well, they have their on-site loading, which includes Class C loading, which is the semi-trailers. But they have good access to that off the arterial street.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Paul. So, I mean, more generally to this project, so just to be clear, so there's a CAC waiver, there is a citywide DCL waiver, there is a utility DCL that is still being paid, yes? Okay. Some of the other concerns we heard about was around green space and public realm. Do we anticipate any further improvements to this through the urban design panel recommendations? I mean, I appreciate that the massing of the building, there's obviously a lot of concerns around things like massing and street frontage, which are obviously a little bit more complicated to change at this juncture, but and recognizing we're 6 years in, but I'm curious about the public realm and some of the suggestions in the UDP.
Okay, thanks for the question. Grace Jiang, Development Planner from PDS. Yeah, we after the UDP, we did connect with applicants. In the revised plan, you can see from comparing to the original design, they made some improvements to the public realm, including the increase the sidewalks from to the 19 feet range and range from 19 feet to 31 feet, which meeting the city standards for the shopping street public realm, and also allow the extra space for the additional public amenities. For example, the plantings, seatings, and which will really create a more comfortable and pleasant public realm for the public. In addition, they increased the size of the public plaza more than 60,000 square feet. This is more than the minimum standards for the neighborhood scale public plaza. Also double the size of comparing to other very popular public plaza in the cities in other areas. It's also widened the aperture facing the west tents, creating very inviting environment to the public. And it's also relocated retail right directly interface with the public plaza. It's really activate this public plaza. And in order to really improve this public realm, city staff also include the conditions in the Appendix D to requiring urban further design development to the interface of the public realm and the program of the plaza to enhance the activation and the usability of those public realms.
Okay. This is a little off the wall, but would that potentially in the future be able to support, say, childcare in one of those CRUs? Because I know that's been another ask that has come up and around, and I realize I'm almost out of time, but.
Yeah, I may start with answer one question, and the staff may have more things. As we did explore the CRUs, but it is apparently will jeopardize the viable space for the grocery store.
I'm out of
and
time.
I'll leave for this childcare, maybe have more comments on that.
Fortunately, I'm out of time, and I know the chair's a bit of a stickler on this one.
Chair.
Oh, I'm out of time, and I don't want to put you on this.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to deal with a little technical item here. So thanks very much, Councillor. We'll move on to Councillor Kirby-Young.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, staff. I had asked some questions last time, and I just wanted to get clarification because I know that staff were still looking at some of the information, and it was around the population change in the neighborhood in the last 5 to 10 years, as well as the retail vacancy rate. Did we land on verifying what those statistics and numbers are?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. When we were here last at public hearing and we had given a response about the population of West Point Grey, at the time we were looking at the previous census, and in that time West Point Grey had been fairly stable. However, we've looked at a more recent census information and it looks like there's actually been a slight decline in population in West Point Grey in the last few years.
Okay, and is that would you say that that is in contrast to other areas of the city to see a decline? Are we seeing that in many other neighborhoods?
There's, yeah, it's certainly a contrast for the city and the region as a whole. As we know, both Vancouver as a municipality and Metro Vancouver is experiencing a high amount of growth at this time. Most of Vancouver's neighborhoods are also growing accordingly. There's a handful of neighborhoods that have experienced population decline, maybe only 2 or 3, but West Point Grey is one of them. Yeah.
Okay, and what about the retail vacancy rate? Can you recap that for us, please?
Yeah. So in more recent times, the West Point Grey Village BIA has been experiencing retail vacancy in the I believe it's the 13 to 15% range. I can double check my figures for you in a moment, and staff would note that anything above 10% is considered to be a concern for the health of a retail village.
Anything above 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've got a lot of feedback, as was mentioned by Councillor Fry and others, around delivery of public amenities with this. He spoke to the plaza and the larger one. Is it correct? Does the city view the BMR or the below market rental units at 20% that rent at a discount to the citywide averages as a public amenity in looking at this overall, the development holistically?
That's correct. So this project, its rezoning enabling policy is under MERP, and the whole goal of that policy program is to facilitate privately owned market and below market rental housing. And under that policy, 20% of the residential floor area must be at below market rates at a minimum, at a 20% discount to citywide CMHC rates. So
okay. So the public amenities that we're getting in essence is sort of the larger public plaza and the below market rental. If we wanted to deliver other things the community's asked about, childcare, other pieces that were mentioned, then conceivably you would not have the below market rental because the funding would go towards those, and then you would be renting at market rates. Is that sort of the trade-off?
Yes. So the cost of delivering that 20% below market rental units, in essence, eats up the land lift that this project generates. So there isn't any additional land lift that's generated to be directed towards other public amenities, such as a childcare or a library, for example. So the amount of below market rental would have to be reduced in order to fund other trade-offs, or other amenities as a trade-off.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate that. And then the in addition to the public plaza, because I know a lot of people expressed concern or had a desire around traffic calming on 10th. I know other colleagues asked questions about that. But it's my understanding that people will be able to walk through the development, sort of through the pathways, and that if they wish to do that and not have to walk on West 10th on the road, on the sidewalks. Is that correct? That people can actually permeably walk from one side, which they can't do now on the site?
Yes. So as part of encouraging open space and permeability on the site, there is a north-south pedestrian muse that connects West 9th Avenue with the public plaza, in addition to a second pedestrian muse that's east-west that connects over to Tolmie as well.
Okay, so they go north-south, they can walk north-south and east-west and walk through. It's not all sort of closed off as private.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just before you sit down, my understanding is Councillor Flyer was just asking some questions around childcare, and it looked like staff wanted to provide some additional information. I'd like to hear it if you have it.
Sure. I'll, in a moment, I'll introduce my colleagues in ACCS that can speak to it. But regarding childcare facilities and whether or not one could be switched into one of the CRU spaces, I'm not sure if that would meet the city and provincial guidelines for the amount of indoor space and particularly the outdoor play space that is required for childcare facilities. Maybe the CRU space itself might be enough for the indoor portion, but you would have to design accordingly appropriate space and solar exposure of that outdoor play space. So it wouldn't be an easy sub-in, but I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mark Pickersgill in ECCS from the childcare team, and he can speak to that more closely.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I think Scott answered that quite appropriately. It's really tough to gauge exactly if a commercial CRU, if that kind of unit would be able to be utilized as childcare space. I mean, that would have to go through a whole a fairly rigorous examination of if it could actually be a licensable space. At the end of the day, though, from a city standpoint, that would be effectively on the property owner and kind of their decision to pursue that kind of that kind of use in the space.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, that concludes questions to staff. Would somebody like to move the motion, please? Councillor Zhou, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Councillor members, are there any is there any discussion? Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I just want to start by saying I don't think I've seen, well, we see lots of passionate, engaged groups of residents, but I don't think I've seen one quite as engaged and consistently over a long period of time and a number of years for the West Point Grey residents who care deeply about their neighborhood. And I really appreciate their input as well as the proponent working with them. I know that there's a desire for more community heard here, the affordability component, which I know a lot of residents have also expressed they want to see offered in the neighborhood, is a really important part of it. And so it is a trade-off here. I do think that the dialogue has resulted in a larger plaza and improvements to the public realm with respects to example for the sidewalk and the widening of the plaza, the sidewalk, and sort of that permeability on the site. I think it's really important that we have places and spaces in an increasingly growing city that are permeable and people can go through, not just that are shut off as private developments. And so I sort of appreciate the outcomes that have happened there from the dialogue over what arguably is a very long period of time. It is a challenging time to deliver housing, as we know. We're seeing increased uncertainty with tariffs, lots of dialogue on the news today about hitting aluminum and steel. And so I think that we need to sort of grab this housing when we can get it. Having a vacant lot doesn't serve the neighborhood. And I think it's quite striking to see the decline in population in West Point Grey. And you see that playing out when you walk through the neighborhood and the businesses. And it's such a shame to see the empty storefronts and the dark windows on what was formerly a really lively village area with a lot of heart and character. So I think having new neighbors coming in here with 570 secured rental units who are going to want to shop at the grocery store and get a coffee at the local coffee shop and eat at the local restaurant and shop in the small stores is going to bring back life and energy into the neighborhood. And I think that is a good. So I appreciate all the work that has been done on this. I will support it. It's 571 badly needed rental units. And I'm always struck when you look at the 20% below market, how affordable those are because it's compared to the citywide rates, not the rates in the neighborhood. So if you look, for example, the cost of a one bedroom, it's renting at $1,400 versus $2,300. That's a pretty significant difference and can really have a huge positive impact on somebody's life and their ability to sort of sustain themselves and live in the neighborhood, which is a beautiful leafy green neighborhood. And I think it's going to be great to have some new neighbors there. So I will happily support it and I appreciate everybody's work on it, the residents' input and the proponents' response. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Council, I'm going to just clear the queue, and I'm going to. Here we go. We're going to re-add everybody onto the queue here. Dominato and then Fry. Thanks very much. Okay, Councillor Meisner.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank all the speakers who came to the public hearing a few weeks ago to speak about this really important project, and also to the Friends of Point Grey, who I believe really have the best interests of their neighborhood at heart. I've met with them several times, as I know that my council colleagues have as well, and I know that they really want to achieve the best outcome here. I'll say that out of all the projects I've seen come across my council desk in the past 2.5 years, this project would rank near the top from what I've seen in terms of engagement between the community and the developer. This has been a a long journey. And the project has been shaped through several iterations based on community feedback, and I've seen that throughout its evolution. So in addition to some of the points raised by Councillor Kirby-Young, this is a vacant site. It used to be the Safeway on West 10th, and the loss of that store has really left a big hole in that community. People are having to drive to Alma and 4th or Westbrook Village, and as a result, the West 10th retail street, the BIA, is really suffering. This being a vacant site, there's no displacement of residents. In fact, the development will see the return of a large format grocery store and over 500 rental units. And there is a massive need for these rental units, particularly close to UBC, where I worked for many years, not just from staff, but students as well. There will also be below market units as part of this development, which I think is great. And I think, you know, the height and the form of the building is pretty modest compared to what we're seeing in other areas. You know, there's much discussion about rapid transit extension to UBC in the near future. And there could be a rapid transit station near this development in the future. So I think it's a good response to the site. It will help reinvigorate the businesses on West 10th who desperately need more people living in the neighborhood. I think the statistic about the number of residents shrinking in this neighborhood is pretty shocking when you think about how much Vancouver has grown and how much development there's been. That there's actually a neighborhood in Vancouver where there's less people living in it than 20 years ago. So we need to address that. We need to provide housing. We need to support small businesses. And I really feel that this is a responsive development by a responsible applicant who is going to create something here that will really be a positive and a plus to the neighborhood. So I look forward to voting in support of this, and I look forward to its completion over an empty parking lot. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Zhou.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So I will be quick. So I think I also like to appreciate all the comments from the speakers 2 weeks ago, and also the all the support from the staff members. So I think their concerns from the community has been solved, and some of the question has been answered by the staff. And this is a very important project. I think 571 rental units, 20% below the market. So if when I was at UBC, if we have this project, I don't have to live all the way in Richmond. So I think it's really much needed project for the neighborhood and for the university as well. And also commercial space, grocery store. And also this site has been emptied for 6 years. We can't wait anymore. And especially in a housing crisis, it's so important to addressing the housing need in the community. And also very close to the park. And there's a library just next to this site. So very close, very good amenity there, and also future SkyTrain, as my colleague mentioned. And also, I think there's a very good traffic management plan to improve the traffic in this particular area. Also improve the public plaza, which is the comments and question from the neighborhood. But from what we heard today, this public plaza will be very easy access for the neighborhood. I think the applicant tried their best to change the plan multiple times to accommodate the concerns and the needs in the community. So I really believe that this project will be a very good addition to the community. So with that, like other council members, I'm gonna support this applicant. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to my colleagues, I'd like to offer some thanks to all of the speakers who called in for this public hearing, as well as those who wrote us, as well as, in particular, conversations and dialogue that we had with the Friends of Point Grey. I think, as my colleagues have noted, there's been a tremendous amount of community engagement around this space. It's quite a significant space in the neighborhood, which has been underutilized since the closure of Safeway at the site. And I went to UBC, so I actually shopped at that Safeway back in the day. And I want to acknowledge that while I know there has been engagement with the builder and the community, I appreciate that I think members of the community had a different vision for this site. And in terms of more embedded amenities like childcare, like maybe integration of the library at the site, in terms of the public realm and space. And I know a speaker towards the end of the evening on the public hearing referenced to previous forms of development, because there were various iterations of this, which I think was part of the challenge. It's taken quite a bit of time, and there was a stepped down version, which I actually quite liked in terms of form of development. But to acknowledge that that this is not necessarily going to deliver on what everybody wanted in the community. It just isn't. It is going to deliver additional rental housing in an area that, as we've heard, is the population's dropped. It's going to deliver below market housing, which we need in rental housing. In that vein, I brought a motion to council earlier this term around the need to look at models to support student housing. There's a huge gap, not just in Vancouver, but around the world right now of affordable student housing. To the point where students are not pursuing certain universities because there isn't space nearby. So I think there will help meet that need. I think the injection of having a grocer at that location again will be welcomed. It also supports the vision of having walkable neighborhoods where we have our amenities close by. We can pick up our groceries, we can go to the pharmacy, we can see our doctor. We don't have to get in our car for those type of amenities and services. It is fair to reflect that the retail impact has been challenging. We have had huge vacancy. I've talked to the BIA, met with them. I've walked the area. And so hopefully this will help revitalize that block and those blocks in that neighborhood. And I also appreciate there are going to be some street and road improvements in terms of the crossings and considerations, the wider sidewalks and the plaza space. So excuse me. Overall, I'm going to support the project. I think we need to advance it, but I do want to acknowledge that I appreciate it's not going to meet everyone's desired vision and needs for the neighborhood, but I do think it's going to add vitality to that neighborhood, though. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. And I appreciate this has been going on for 6 years. I appreciate the opportunity to come and meet with the Friends of West Point Grey on multiple occasions, along with Councillor Dominato, and really kind of diving in on not just this site, but the many challenges that West Point Grey, or Varsity Village, as some of us might remember it, are grappling with. And I think this will be the necessary injection of new life and new people to help support some of the independent businesses like the pharmacy and stuff that have been struggling this whole time. Is this great? I think we could do great, and this isn't great, but it's better. And I think that, you know, over the course of the 6 years and the many iterations, there have been improvements to some of the design that I think reflect some of the aspirations and concerns from the community. Does it knock all those needs out the park? No, but also recognizing that it has been 6 years and that we have, you know, a challenging development environment for folks, and the costs of doing these kind of things, and the interest rates and the threats of tariffs and all the things that are going on in the world right now. I do think that it's in our best interest to move forward with this. It is going to deliver housing close to UBC. It's going to inject a little bit more life into the neighborhood, and hopefully in some retail vibrancy. And I think that there are some improvements that will make this a better fit than what was originally contemplated. And I appreciate the things like shifting the massing and the shadow studies that are incorporated through that kind of thoughtful reconsideration. Could be better. It's ironic that we're coming in under a MERP. Well, MERP has largely been kind of, has not succeeded in the way we would have liked to see it, but we are here. They've followed the direction that we've given as a city, and I look forward to this just getting it done. So, thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor. I'll just make very brief remarks here. I think that I will cede the chair to Councillor Montague.
Go ahead.
Thanks very much. I'll just briefly state that I'm very thankful for the community engagement, the comments we heard, the speakers that came to the chamber and also spoke. Also to the applicant, who I think spent quite a bit of time trying to respond to some community feedback, particularly around the plaza. But I know from experience in my neighborhood that a grocery store is really a foundational service that really can have a significant impact on a community. Bringing food grocer back to the neighborhood, in addition to the additional housing, the rental housing, needed rental housing, will hopefully be transformative. I do believe that the project itself responds to the concerns that we have for the neighborhood. It hasn't been able to meet all of those needs, but to see this project move forward after so many years is, I guess, bittersweet in the fact that it's taken so long to get to this stage right now. I remember as a UBC student spending a lot of time on the West 10th neighborhood, shopping. I remember the original Earl's restaurant, which later became the first Cactus Club in the city. That's one of the largest restaurant chains in the country today. But that all began there, and there used to be a lot more energy and more excitement. And I think for young people in the West Point Grey neighborhood today, and people who live in the neighborhood, and people who will be working at UBC and working locally, that will be able to take advantage of this new rental housing. I think it will be a really positive thing that will eventually see this energy return to West 10th Avenue, which has been struggling with an incredibly high vacancy rate because of the lack of sort of key services and key amenities like the grocery store. So with all of that taken into consideration, we'll be supporting this project. And so with that, I'll conclude remarks, and I will take this to a vote. Okay. A moment. Thanks very much. So that passes with all present in favor. So thanks very much, staff, and to the applicant and to the community very much for being a part of this important process to revitalize the West 10th area. I'm going to suggest that we take just a quick 5-minute recess to kind of reset. We have quite a few speakers to the next item. If that's okay, we'll take a quick 5-minute recess until 10:45 and pick things up from there.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, we will continue this meeting. Councillor Kirby-Young, just need to have you turn your camera on, please. Just a quorum with you. Oh, there, we got Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Young. We will resume this meeting. Okay, so we are now on to Report 1, 2025 Community Services and Other Social Grants. And before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to disclose? Okay, so this item does not have a presentation. Council members, you will have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of team members. So are there any questions on this report?
After hearing from the speakers. Okay, in which case I will wait till then. Thank you.
Okay. All right,
Chair,
then.
point of privilege. Whatever was said was not audible online.
Sorry,
Dialogue.
Councillor. Yeah, we were just asked if we are going to be, if council will be able to ask questions after the speakers. And so points of information can be asked after that. But I think it looks like nobody is going to ask any further questions
Great.
of staff at this time. So we're just going to go straight to speakers.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, now we will hear from registered speakers for this report. Public speakers should state whether they are in support of opposition of the recommendations and may only speak once. I'll also ask speakers if they are residents of Vancouver, if it is not noted on the speakers list. Our first public speaker is Frank Cohn. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Cohn. I'm here representing VAST, or the Vancouver Association for Survivors of Torture. We have been around since 1986, one of the first torture rehabilitation centers in the world, funded by the longest running funded by the United Nations, funded by the City of Vancouver since 1993. I'm from here, I live here, I work here. We're on the lands of forcibly displaced people, the Squamish, Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and we have a responsibility, a legal and humanitarian responsibility to support other forcibly displaced people who end up coming here exercising their legal right as refugees or refugee claimants. Those legal responsibilities are under the United Nations Convention Against Torture. Canada was a signatory in 1985, the Human Rights Code, and the UN Refugee Convention. Under these contexts, we have that responsibility not only to receive people, but also there's a specific article which speaks to the right to rehabilitation, which is what we do at VAST. We're a specialized niche mental health service that provides this support. Here's the thing, here's the context. We're in the midst right now of tremendous cuts from all levels of government. We have received, of course, notification from IRCC federally that all immigration levels are being cut in half. We've received notification that the ESDC funding federally, that's another 100K for us. We're in the last year of it. That the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, which was closed, and along with it, the Community Action Initiative, that's another 120K a year, completely cut. We don't have any signs of anything that's going to come to us instead of that. And then, of course, with the United States pulling funding for United Nations agencies, we're expecting that our UN funding will be cut as well. We have been speaking as aggressively as we can with all of the health authorities, VCH and Fraser, and unfortunately they feel their hands are tied. We are in a complicated situation, and then, of course, the last of these cuts was from the City of Vancouver. So while we support and are grateful for 33 years of City of Vancouver funding, of course, we're not in favor of these cuts. So here's the thing, the people are going to come anyways. Whether the levels are reduced or not, individuals will still come here. They will still cross over the borders. People will still find creative ways to come here as refugees and refugee claimants. Let's be proactive. Let's be preventative. Let's ensure that we're not spending significantly more money later on housing people in shelters, on unemployment, on supporting mental health needs if and when people go into crisis. Let's be preventative and proactive, and let's understand that refugees and newcomers bring tremendous economic benefit to our city. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Emma Sutherland. Welcome, Emma. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emma Sutherland, and I'm the founder and executive director of Red Fox Healthy Living Society. Our mission is to transform the lives of children and youth who face barriers through the power of recreation and mentorship. We do this by providing free recreation, cultural, and life skills training to youth throughout Metro Vancouver, and we've started in Vancouver in 2006. I'm a resident of Vancouver my whole life, and I'm here to ask Council to accept the recommendations of the report. I'm doing this for 3 reasons. 1, because Red Fox is up for core funding, and for most of our existence, 17 out of our 19 years, the funding from the City of Vancouver has been instrumental in sustaining us through hard times and allowing us to expand to reach more children and youth in good times. We now reach 1,300 children and youth in Vancouver every year. With your continued support, this year we are on track to mentor many more children and youth. We have managed to stay connected to children and youth at schools, community centers, parks, and neighborhood houses in East Vancouver because of the stability of core funding. Almost 2 decades ago, we launched programs at Strathcona, Raycam, Britannia, and Collingwood, and we are still there today. And I'm happy to report that we've recently been able to return to Seymour School and will be returning to Cedar Cottage. With me today are 3 youth who have been a part of Red Fox since they were in elementary school or high school. And if they could stand up, please, up there in the balcony. We have Tyrone, Aaliyah, and Justice. They are now in their 20s. They are now mentoring children and youth in our programs, and this is because of your support. The second reason is to recommend the other organizations that are up for funding. I've read the report, I've worked with a lot of the organizations, and they are making real differences to Vancouver residents who most need help to not only survive, but to thrive, to realize their potential and become contributing members of society. The third reason is to ask you to support the recommendation of the Building Safer Communities Fund. A few weeks ago, members of the Red Fox team and I attended a partners meeting of the committee initiative. 9 organizations have been meeting together since quarterly for 2 years. The collaborations that are forming are transforming our work individually and collectively. Together, the Vancouver Park Board, Dudes Club, Collingwood and South Vancouver Neighborhood Houses, City Hive, Yo Bro, Yo Girl, Mosaic, and PIX are collaborating, sharing our skills and knowledge to benefit the children and youth we serve. We are excited about what is happening, and we thank you, City Council and Social Policy, for making this collective happen. Red Fox is holding a youth safety forum on March 20th, and several of the organizations are a part of it. We would love to have you join us. The Building Safer Communities funding is scheduled to end in a year. I hope it doesn't, but even if it does, the impact of the work will carry on. We will continue to collaborate and support each other. Thank you again for your support. And may I also add that recently we had to leave our office in Main and Kiefer because the building was sold. I made 1 call to Lanny Libby of Social Policy. She connected me up to Social Infrastructure, and within 2 weeks we had a rental agreement with Strathcona Church. They gave us subsidized rent, a sizable donation because they saw the connection of our missions, and now we have a new partner as well as a new office, so thank you.
Thanks very much, Emma. A little extra time for that good news, and by all means, email the details about the event later this month. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Paula Murillo. Paula, are you in the chamber? Not seeing them here, so we'll go on to speaker number 4, Janet Teeves. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I am Janet Tevis, and here in front of you on behalf of the Multicultural Helping House Society, or MHHS for short. Thank you, Mayor Sim and the Council for giving me this opportunity to speak, and thank you to the Social Policy and Projects Group for the recommendation to approve the MHHS application for its youth program. Through the times, MHHS has consistently provided settlement, social, and community services, particularly to marginalized and vulnerable persons. The organization as well underwent tumultuous times, and despite that, did not fail to ensure that women and youth are given tools to successfully navigate the Canadian economy, and society. Our youth application aims to address the challenges that parents and youth face in our communities, and the resources coming from the grant will show will provide MHHS to show to parents and youth how they can navigate economic mobility while preserving family and social relationships. As with other nonprofits, MHHS is not immune to funding cuts. And we are creating ways to raise more funding so the grant coming from the City of Vancouver will greatly help and support in delivering vital social services to the community. Again, our sincerest thank you.
Thanks very much. Our next speaker is Evan Machette Wong, and they're on the phone. Evan, are you there?
Hello, I am.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good start to your day. I am Evan Machette Wong, a resident here in Vancouver, in the West End by the Davie Village. I am the program director at Health Initiative for Men, also known as HIM, whose goals focus on reducing HIV transmission and other STBBIs here in Vancouver for the past 17 years. And I am calling in to speak in favor of our program being recommended by city staff for the social policy multi-year funding. Hustle has been a long-standing program offered through HIM to help male-identified sex workers in Vancouver to get connected and stay connected with services. It is the very first program of its kind to exist in this country and has inspired many similar programs across the country that have likewise been very successful. It is entirely based in Vancouver and has been designed to fit within Vancouver and its strategic goals and its context. Hustle has specifically targeted the goals and services of services and infrastructure, safety and security, and health, inclusivity, and equitability. The City of Vancouver has always been a supportive partner of ours here at HIM, and we're very grateful to be partners with the City of Vancouver and our continued work in creating a healthier and safer city. For fairly minimal investment, we have been able to reap maximal returns for the city and its citizens. Through Hustle, we have been able to reduce HIV among male-identified sex workers by connecting them to testing and treatment. We also help reduce homelessness by connecting them to additional services and other case management programs. And we have been able to move them into safer environments to reduce violence. Part of this is, of course, bridging relationships with our supportive partners here with law enforcement to maintain positive connections for sex workers facing that kind of violence, especially since the stigma that they face often prevents them from wanting to seek that help and service from law enforcement. And we've even been able to help them transition out of sex work and into different careers, especially as we see in a lot of economic pressures that might benefit them to move out of sex work and into more stable careers. Approving this funding for this project allows us to remain sustainable over the next 3 years, and this council stands to continue making a difference in HIV reduction for people who need it the most here in the city. Thank you for your time and listening to me, members of the City Council.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Ian Marcus on the phone. Ian, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Ian. Go ahead. You've got 3 minutes.
Hi. Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And I'm here to speak in favor of the Community Services Grant. My name is Ian Marcuse. I am a resident of East Vancouver, and I am the coordinator of the Vancouver Neighborhood Food Networks. We are a recipient of a $10,000 core support grant. I applaud Vancouver for their long-time commitment to these and other social policy grants, so critical to supporting any number of city priorities as outlined in the Vibrant Cities Plan, the Healthy City Strategy, the Equity Framework, and the Food Strategy, to name a few. Our social programs are absolutely necessary in building a city that is just, equitable, resilient, and compassionate, ever more important and necessary in the context of local unaffordability and global threats, whether socio-political, economic, or climate-related. The Vancouver Neighborhood Food Networks are 15 neighborhood-based food organizations committed to promoting food security across Vancouver. We are committed to food equity and access, education, skill building, and advocacy, particularly for community members who are struggling economically. This work is based on the principle that all members of society have the right to quality food. The core support grant that we receive provides a space for networks to collaborate, share best practices, problem solve, communicate to the public, and advocate for food justice with a unified voice. Food networks not only work to improve food access for all community members, but through our community development work such as school gardens, food celebrations, community kitchens and workshops, food markets, seed libraries, and much more. These programs also build community belonging, connections, friendship, volunteerism, and general health and well-being, as food brings people together in beautiful ways. These 15 food networks collaborate with several hundred other community partners, creating a dense web of partnerships and relations where we serve or connect with over 40,000 Vancouver residents. But we also carry a large burden in building local food security where many are struggling to afford food. Many of our programs are at capacity, and city budget reallocations and shortfalls meant for us that even a very modest $1,000 cost of living increase requested over our current $10,000 was not recommended, nor were increases for any other applicants, and no new grants were recommended. These grants are simply not keeping up with the growing need. But in closing, while recognizing that this city core funding is critical to our work, to which we are grateful, we will continue to advocate for increased food sector funding needed to continue building a more just and equitable food system in Vancouver. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ian. Okay. Our next speaker should be in person, Ingrid Mendez. Hello, Ingrid.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ingrid Mendez. I'm here today representing the Migrant Workers Center. I just wanted to raise some awareness of who migrant workers are. So migrant workers come here every year to support the economy. They get charged taxes just like everyone else. And BC Federation of Labor reports that Vancouver is #1 city in British Columbia where the most migrant workers come to support the economy every year here. So migrant workers will be cleaning spaces where we meet and socialize. They will be serving food, and they are the ones who put food our tables so I encourage you tonight when you sit down to have your dinner with your family to think about those migrant workers that are working really hard for that food that you're eating tonight. I also wanted to say that one of the things that the federal government has been doing is they just released 2 programs for migrant workers for paths to immigration, which we celebrate, and the industries also celebrate as they recognize these workers as essential to the economy. And I wanted to raise the issue that our funding, although I really appreciate the work that you all do for us and for everyone here in Vancouver, our funding got cut this year. And so the essential services that we provide for migrant workers when they are being abused and exploited, because many of them go through those circumstances, are at risk of continuing. So please, just keep that in your brain on how these migrant workers are working really hard to support the economy in British Columbia and in Vancouver as well. And that when they face abuse and exploitation, we are the only organization that are supporting these migrant workers with these essential services, and we're at risk of not being able to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next speaker is Brianne Deman. Brianne, welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Brianne Deman, and I am the Director of Ember's Eastside Works. Eastside Works is one of the programs not recommended for core support grant funding in this report. Eastside Works is a low-barrier employment innovation hub in the downtown Eastside. We provide employment supports and wraparound services to residents, including those connected to our social enterprise and community economic development partners, which include organizations like Mission Possible, Potluck Cafe, Megaphone Magazine, and Binners Project. We also provide employment to downtown Eastside residents in our programs like the Chinatown Stewards, part of the Uplifting Chinatown initiative. Our model recognizes that the best way to lift people out of poverty is to meet them where they are at, whether that means offering income opportunities of just 1 or 2 hours a week, or helping them transition into more stable employment over time. We launched in 2017 after Embers won a city RFP to operate the Innovation Hub, and from 2018 to 2023, the city provided operational funding to support this pilot phase. Last year, after this funding came to an end, our provincial funding for peer employment also ended, leaving us without operating funds. Unlike traditional employment services, our model fills a crucial gap that provincial services do not address by supporting clients with complex barriers to employment who need longer runways and extra supports to enter the workforce. Our programs are also highly specific to the downtown east side and provide critical resources to ensure the success of clients who earn income through our various employment partners. We currently do not fit within the province's funding mandate for employment services, as these are almost exclusively delivered through WorkBC programs. This has left us in a precarious position. After being denied funding from the province last summer, we temporarily closed our services at 57 East Hastings, focusing instead on operating our Chinatown Stewards program and reevaluating our strategic direction. Now, Eastside Works is at a critical juncture, facing permanent closure within the next few months if we are not able to secure additional funding. While the $25,000 grant we requested from the city wouldn't have been the make or break funding we are looking for, we saw it as an opportunity for council to reaffirm its commitment to social enterprise and low barrier employment supports, aligning with the CED strategy and as well as the Uplifting Downtown Eastside motion, where Eastside Works was referenced a number of times in the recent report back to council. Finally, I know funding this year was limited due to a reallocation of ACCS funding to support an engineering program. I want to stress the importance of allocating new funds when we identify new work to take place that benefits our community. For 5 years, the city has made a strategic investment in Eastside Works, and we have proven our impact. We have an opportunity to make sure that investment doesn't go to waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Our next speaker is Vivian Q. Liang. Vivian?
Hi, we actually registered as a group. So we have our members sitting upstairs, and our speaker today would be Gabby, actually.
Okay, thanks. So that you have 5 minutes as a group. Thank you.
So, hello, Council. My name is Gabby Guevara, and I'm the Young Adult Settlement Counselor at South Vancouver Neighborhood House. I was born and raised here. I'm a resident of Vancouver, but I'm here to represent SVNH. We have been an active partner in delivering the Building Safer Community project with middle years and youth. Middle year programming, such as Kids Safe and after-school programs at SVNH, provide a community for youth and children to grow, learn, and have fun. This goes beyond numbers, such as how many kids we serve. Children are beyond just a number in a report. These are vast networks and opportunities that impact each individual child's lives differently. I would like to share a quote from a parent with children in one of our programs. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you for teaching my children how to cook udon noodles. They've also loved learning to make apple cake, spring rolls, and bubble milk tea. These wonderful activities have truly inspired my children to develop an interest in cooking. They thoroughly enjoy participating in your classes, and your patience and enthusiasm make each lesson both fun and educational. They couldn't stop talking about how they learned from these cooking sessions, and they're so proud of the delicious dishes they've helped create. Beyond the classes, I've noticed a positive change at home. They've started to take an interest in cooking and are eager to help me whenever they're in the kitchen. It means so much to us that you've shared your knowledge and created such a positive and memorable experience for them. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging them in such a meaningful way. While this is a quote from one family, This reflects how much of a positive impact just one of our programs has. Now imagine this multiplied by more than 10 programs with 15 children at each. The loss of services such as KidSafe removes many potential opportunities for each child that could have a ripple effect on the rest of their lives. These programs support social emotional learning, allow children to feel respected, develop structure and discipline, and provide a platform to combat social isolation through befriending kids who are different from themselves. These middle year programs teach boundary settings for healthy relationships, financial literacy, and conflict resolution. These life skills, in turn, are upstream prevention programs towards gang involvement as they enter adolescent years. Middle year programs are also beyond impacting the child. Families, including parents and caregivers, are also holistically connected to wraparound support services and targeted referrals and resources, so everyone grows together. High school youth are also provided with meaningful employment services by volunteering in our programs, continuing to access resources, and connecting to youth workers as they age out of middle years. No child should fall through the cracks. Every child deserves a future where their potential is nurtured, their voices are heard, and their dreams are supported. So I urge you to take a moment to reflect. What a stronger and brighter community we will have when we intentionally prioritize all children's chances to succeed. Therefore, we would like to support the reallocation of KidSafe funding into middle year program organizations to ensure these valuable services can continue. We also hope that BSCP funding will be ongoingly supported beyond the current 3 years allocation, as this need is more than a short period of 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking. One moment. Sorry about that. So we're going to go to Joe Calandino. Joe, are you in the chamber? Joe Calandino? Hey, Joe. No worries, no worries. Go right ahead.
I had everything up a second ago. Now it disappeared on me. If I could have a moment, please.
Yeah, you bet.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank Mayor and Council for allowing us the opportunity and the request that everybody's here for during this motion alongside Red Fox. My name is Joe Calandino, Executive Director of Yo Bro, Yo Girl Youth Initiative. We provide very similar programs to everybody here. Speaking on behalf of putting the motion forward. Over the past year, BSCF funding has really helped us expand our reach and impact in Vancouver, supporting over 135 youth across multiple partnerships in Vancouver. That is not to mention the other 6 municipalities that we currently have the privilege to serve. At Britannia Elementary School, we've been able to offer year-round programming. This includes in-school, after-school, spring and summer programs with a variety of activities to engage our youth in safe and healthy activities with proper role models. We've expanded our after-school program to Seymour Elementary School, and we're in the process of adding a 3rd elementary school, as well as a neighborhood high school. This will help ensure a smoother transition for students coming from our partnership elementary schools to provide them consistent support and mentorship as they grow and transition from elementary school to high school. By doing this, we will create a model of youth empowering youth to make safe and healthy choices through our organic growth model, providing them opportunities to eventually facilitate the programs. On top of that, we deliver presentations at alternative education programs, community partners, and agencies to highlight the importance of public safety, especially in response to the opioid crisis. Unfortunately, the growing evidence from the Lower East Side of increased violent crime, including stabbings and victimization, which goes unreported, which even is more concerning. And this is appalling to me, how our kids are getting younger and younger and getting invested in a lifestyle they know nothing about. Beyond structured programming, we also provide critical support to families facing financial hardship. At Britannia, for example, we've helped fill fridges with groceries, handed out gift cards to assist them with food security during the holidays. We've expanded our efforts to expand gifts and gift cards to families in need. We also have been working with the Welcome Center by offering after-school program to help foster integration and providing structured activities to support them in their transition.
Sorry, Joe, I just want to let you know we've let you go quite a bit over the time.
Shall I stop?
Yes, please. Yeah, but that was great. Thank you very much for your remarks.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
One last note I want to make is that truly the sustainable funding, I got to echo everybody else's words here, we need to move beyond the 2-year hump, right? This is our children we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Joe. Right. Our next speaker is on the phone, Pamela Dudas. Pamela?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Pamela Dudas, a resident of Vancouver, representing Britannia Community Services Center Society, where I'm the president of the volunteer-run Board of Management. We support this report and would like to thank Council for the continued support of Britannia, which allows us to support the most vulnerable in our community. We truly appreciate your additional funding to our many programs, which are run by staff and our many volunteers. With the funding, we will be able to enhance childcare infrastructure in the neighborhood and work with the VSB in the city to expand city childcare services in the community. We will also be able to support neighborhood food networks to deliver much-needed food security, nutritious and high-quality foods across the city, especially in the next few years. This funding will leverage thousands of dollars directly from other sources such as Vancouver Coastal Health, Health Canada, Vancouver Foundation, and hundreds of volunteer labor to work on local community gardens, kitchens, traditional foods, bulk food clubs, community kitchen, and wellness education. In addition, the $10,000 for extreme climate response brings in other funders and peer-to-peer supports for the most vulnerable neighbors by having health checks, DIY fans and filters, cooling kits, and most importantly, having a friendly and trusting neighbor to call for help. While we did not get funding for our Weaving Our Communities Together, which supports free cultural programs for our urban Indigenous residents, Britannia will continue commit to reconciliation, the Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action, and the Missing and Murdered Women and Girls to Justice by working with the city, community organizations, and our neighbors. These programs are so important to build social connection between Indigenous and non-Indigenous residents. We invite you to attend one of our wonderful activities and any programs at Britannia. Again, thank you so much for your support, and we will follow up with information about our society and our programs. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pamela. Okay, our final speaker is Rhonda Stevens. Rhonda, are you on the phone?
I am.
All right, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of Vancouver City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the work we do. Thank you for the grant provided in the past year and being considered for the upcoming grant. My Nisga'a name is Hakunta. My English name is Rhonda Stevens. I am the Executive Director and founding member of Yukamkak Cultural Society, located in the downtown east side. The story of Yukamkak is interpreted as a natural force of the raven. In Nisga'a tradition, the raven brings light to a world of darkness. This is symbolic of the work we do, where raven metaphorically brings light to the downtown east side and shines on those who are knowledge carriers from different nations and have made the downtown east side their home. The elders provide guidance to upcoming knowledge keepers, SRO tenants, and the homeless, the LGBTQ2S community. Our program is unique in that we provide specific cultural teachings and is not a one-size-fits-all program. We also partnered with the University of Victoria to ensure the voices of the elders and SRO tenants are heard on a podcast as well as narratives, which will be shared to our sponsors and the world beyond the downtown east side. Having worked in the downtown east side for many years, I have found that the downtown east side elders are the missing link needed to help in a time of an overdose crisis. Connecting their power source to elders means connecting to specific traditional song, dance, language, food, and proper protocol. To date, we have a total of 13 elders and knowledge keepers. The grant we are seeking will provide honoraria to elders for working in the garden located on Hastings, medicine outings and processing, talking circles, language classes, hotel smudging and cedar brushing, door knocking in SRO hotels, and most importantly, working with the original landholders of Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. In conclusion, I truly believe culture does save lives. I am always honored to share the work we do to those of you who have the task of listening, and I am grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for walking this path with us for the past year.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. Thank you to all the speakers today and for all the work that you are doing in community. That concludes our speakers list. Oh, I'm sorry, we had one, I'll go back. There was one speaker that wasn't here earlier, Paula Murillo. Paula, did you not been able to get, okay. All right, so that, I'll close the speakers list. Thanks very much. All right, Council, would somebody like to move a motion, please? Councillor Meisner, seconded by Councillor Fry. Thanks very much. All right, council members, are there any discussion? I see Councillor Fry on the queue.
Yeah.
Sorry, we just had, yeah. Sorry, my bad. We're all pushing buttons here.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm happy to support these organizations, but recognize that there are groups that aren't being supported, and I just want to hear that this is, because I don't know that we necessarily anticipated some of these outcomes when we reallocated $1 million to support Project Hope. Can somebody explain to me that in fact this is that $1 million shortfall that has seen additional grant recipients that do provide for the betterment of our city, I think, in a variety of different ways, including migrant services and seniors and youth programming and programming that supports people with persistent barriers to employment. Is that kind of unintended consequences of that reallocation from the budget?
Thank you for the question. Margaret Witkins, General Manager, Arts, Culture, and Community Services. With the allocation of $1 million in social policy granting funding to Project Hope, that did change the overall pool available for social policy granting in 2025. Some of that is manifesting as part of this report, and there are future grant reports where we will see a reduced overall pool available. And With that, staff, through the adjudication process, ensure that we're guided by the priorities set out in Vibrant Vancouver and other strategy and policy documents to ensure that the funding available best supports council and city priorities.
Right, and I appreciate that those must be some very difficult decisions for our staff to make, because these are all very worthwhile organizations that do, in various ways, meet Vibrant Vancouver, but
certainly
can't fund them all.
Certainly, the demand far outstrips the funding capacity, certainly.
Okay. So I guess my question then maybe is more for the city manager or deputy city manager. Because I know we recently made funds available for the project barrage to the tune of new funding since the budget. Is there an opportunity for us to reconsider finding some kind of budget allocation, maybe to consider how we might support some of these organizations that are now funding themselves without any funding?
Just want to remind council that at this stage, the council questions to staff will go through the chair.
Oh, okay. Through you, Chair, if I may.
Thanks, Chair. So with respect to Project Barrage, that's a funding request that we expect to be coming forward from the Vancouver Police Department. It hasn't actually been approved by council as yet. In terms of opportunities for council to allocate more money in the current budget to social policy grants, that's certainly direction that council could provide to staff. We could go look for funding sources. There's the General Revenue Stabilization Reserve as a one-time expense that council could use for that purpose. But we're certainly happy to report back to council if that's the direction.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Dominato.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And similarly, in the same vein, through you to staff, just on the subject of Project Hope, and what I heard was that reallocation reduce some of the social policy grants available, funding available. Can you just reconfirm for me that with the Project Hope, there's a peer employment component of that, and that was undertaken through an RFP process? Is that right? Like a supported employment initiative as part of Project Hope?
Through the chair. The initial allocation was handled, my understanding, through a director award, and a future award of that, should funding continue in future years, would be through an RFP process.
Okay. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll just leave my questions there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Montague.
Thanks, Chair. Just through you, just a point of personal privilege, if when we get to the vote, if I can have clauses A and E severed out.
So can you repeat that, please?
Sorry, just to have clauses A and E severed out when we get to the vote.
Noted. Thanks very much. Okay. All right. So we will take this to, Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I guess I have a point of information about voting and how many votes we need to pass grants, given that Councillor Montague has proposed sever. And we have what seems to be close to bare quorum.
7 are on meeting right now. Councillor Kirby Young is on video right now.
Okay, so.
And we require 6 votes for approval.
Okay, thank you. And second, I submitted an amendment.
Oh, okay. We'll go to an amendment queue then.
And
right, I'll put you.
Need
Councillor Fry, you're now, sorry, we've got the amendment queue and you're on the amendment queue now.
Yeah, okay. And I appreciate that this may need a set of eyes from the city manager, because I literally just sent it, and I'm just going to pull up what I wrote because it's already gone in one end and not the other. It's the council directs staff to report back by Q2 2025 with recommendations to consider a reallocation of new funds from contingency or other sources to be determined in order to support some of the otherwise not recommended grant recipients, in particular but not limited to migrant and refugee services, food insecurity, youth and seniors programming, and programs supporting people with persistent barriers to employment that have otherwise been defunded by the $1 million shortfall from the city's Social Policy 2025 grants operating budget. Now, I just want to reflect on, and I mentioned the sort of new Project Barrage approach to the downtown east side and stuff, and I appreciate that that is a reactive response to issues that we have in our city and where that's coming from. And I do think that some of these groups that are not getting funded are proactive responses. When we look at interventions for young people to keep them off the streets and out of drugs and gangs and that kind of thing, this is a positive development. And I think similarly, when we look at folks who have persistent barriers to employment and finding a way for them to lift up, those are important paths to recovery and to improvement that will actually ultimately, I believe, diminish some of the impacts on our first line responders, including policing. And similarly, we know that we're going to see an influx of migrant and refugee needs, given what's happening south of the border. We already know that there's an increase in migrants coming to Canada, and I think that in the interest of the betterment of our city, these are important considerations. So I'm just respectfully asking that maybe we can send this back and see if we can find some ways to review some of the organizations that might have otherwise been lost their funding, and through the decision that we made back at the budget time, which frankly I hadn't really anticipated what the impacts of that would have been at that time, and had I would have been more thoughtful in my response at that time.
Right. Do we have a seconder? Second call. So we do not have a seconder for that amendment, Councillor.
All right.
Right. So then we'll go back to the main queue. Councillor Fry.
Well, I certainly won't get in the way of the grants that are going out to folks. Otherwise, I am disappointed that we're not going to consider options to look at some of these groups that are not meeting funding. But I guess that will have to wait till I have somebody who could even second my amendment.
Oh, sorry. I think that concludes Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to thank the staff for all the work in adjudicating and all the speakers that came to speak. It is always tricky. We always have more applications and need than we have available funding for. I do think that it is important that we are continuing to sustain a lot of the long-serving organizations and nonprofits in the city that are doing fantastic work, while at the same time pivoting in response to some of the changing conditions in the city. To the point that was raised earlier by Councillor Fry, particularly pleased to see ongoing and continued support at this time for youth initiatives that such as Yo Bro, Yo Girl, or others that some of the neighborhood house funding, all of those different things that we do through different various grant streams, and that over time. Because if we can keep kids on a good path, it's always better to support them upstream than dealing with the efforts downstream. And I think that we are really trying to thoughtfully support and address some of those needs and concerns and considerations. We are going to have some tough choices ahead. We're going to see the impacts of some of the decisions that are being made by senior levels of government. And I think as a city, we need to kind of remain resolute in looking at what our core priorities are and how we can zero in on the needs and the impact that we appropriately as a city government can really have in addressing a lot of those issues. Grants are fundamentally important in terms of ongoing viability for the organizations, but they're not the only tool that we have to support. And advocacy is certainly an important one. I'm hearing a lot of concern with respects to immigrant serving organizations because of decisions like senior levels of government, and would welcome a lot of those conversations. I think that as councillors, we are interacting with our MPs and MLAs all the time. And I think that is, we need to have sort of strong voices together to bring a lot of those concerns and those issues forward, because it's also really important that people are supported in having a good start in their new home. And we do welcome people here. We need the workforces. We welcome the cultural diversity, and it's important that people are successful. So I would sort of encourage any of the organizations to continue reaching out to counselors. Really happy to have those conversations, and we're navigating through to try to support a lot of the needs as best we can. Food security is another one that I would note that we're needing to pivot towards, and I think it's been identified in terms of increasing scarcity. And that was I think something that was identified even before the impact of what we're seeing with tariffs and sort of the elbows up Canadian response. But really appreciate all the feedback and the input, and I think we're going to have some ongoing conversations. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Councillor Meisner.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just also wanted to echo thanks to staff for all your adjudication work. I know how thoughtful you are when you're determining which organizations will receive funding. And as Councillor Kirby-Young mentioned, it is really a challenge. We have a limited amount of money and many, many competing priorities. But I am confident that there is a really thoughtful approach that's taken in the best interests of Vancouverites. I just want to mention Project Hope for those who may be watching and are not familiar with it. This is the Downtown East Side street cleaning program that last year in 2024 was out of funding and was at risk of basically closing up shop. This is operated by Mission Possible. It's a nonprofit, and they provide Downtown Eastside residents struggling with poverty opportunities to re-enter the workforce. So I'm a big supporter of Project Hope. They are picking up thousands of needles and bags of trash and pressure washing the sidewalks on the Downtown East Side on Hastings from Abbott to Dunlevy. And it's really important that we do what we can to help uplift that neighborhood and give people a positive feeling in the midst of, some challenging situation that they're facing. So it's really important work, and I do support the reallocation of that funding. In the future, we can look at, what we can do to support some of these other organizations that unfortunately this year didn't get funding, but I know we'll take a fresh look at that again next year. So thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Meisner. I'll cede the chair to Councillor Montague in just a moment, and just echo some of the comments I've heard. First of all, thank you very much to the speakers who came today and the incredible work that you're all doing in community right now. And I want to speak specifically to the question around supporting some of the refugees and others that have been arriving on our shores here and being welcomed here, but also struggling to find basic housing and services. And we know that the impacts that they've had on some of our shelters, for example. These are questions that have been raised in many forums, including this council chamber, but also at Metro Vancouver, contacts with the CEO of YVR as well, is that's usually the entry point for a lot of people coming in. And I know that the federal government has also been actively contacted, and the pressure that people coming here without those kinds of supports are putting on our other agencies. So that work will continue, and hopefully we will get a response in future from the federal government to provide those supports that really cities are really ill-equipped to do so. Nonetheless, we have approximately $7 million worth of grants that are going out through this vote today. And so I'm extremely supportive of the work and want to really thank staff who have, I think, very thoughtfully and with a lot of dedication been able to go through and find deserving applicants, and as well making some very challenging choices when it comes to allocating that amount of money. And with that, I would like to just express my support for this and move us to a vote. Sorry.
Chair.
First, we wanted to sever them.
Severing. Yeah.
Okay, so we're severing. So we're now going to vote. Sorry. On item A. All right, so we will, on this vote, we will be voting on items A and E. So that passes with the required 6 votes with Councillor Montague in opposition. We will now vote on the rest of the items. That would be here. Items B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and O, P. Thank you. And that passes with all here in support. Thanks very much. Okay, so that completes report 1. Thanks very much, staff, and thank you again to speakers. We'll move on to item number 2, amendment to license bylaw SRA vacancy control. Before we begin this item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Okay, we'll just wait a moment for team members to come in to present this item. Council, I'm going to, just noting the time is getting close to 12 o'clock. I'm going to ask if we might move to complete this item. Yeah, okay. Moved by
Chair,
Councillor
actually,
Dominato. And
sorry, before we go forward, I'm just wondering, I'm just looking at the rest of the business, and we might be able to get through the business of the day not shortly, fairly quickly after noon here. So
take a look at that.
I actually wouldn't mind moving to finish the business of the day so we don't have to come back after in camera, but.
One moment. Okay, so I think we are going to, so I'll ask council if they're willing to complete the agenda for the council public meeting. It looks like we should be able to. I think it shouldn't take us any longer than 12:30. Sure, okay. There was a motion on the floor, yeah.
Move to withdraw that, but I'm not, I think Councillor Fry was on the queue before me.
Chair, as a point of procedure, Councillor Dominato made a motion and there was a queue to speak to it. So it would be great if we could acknowledge the queue versus
very good.
People just.
Yeah. So.
All right, Councillor Fry.
Yeah, I'm double booked, and I was hoping to just get this done so I can get on some other business over lunch. So okay. I was prepared to support the original Dominato.
Okay. That would just mean bringing the rest of the agenda after in camera. Okay. So all right. We'll hear from others. Councillor Dominato.
Yeah. Well, I moved that we extend past noon to deal with item number 2 and hear from the speaker and do debate and decision on that item. Okay. But I see Councillor Kirby-Young is also on the queue.
I'll put advance. Councillor Kirby-Young. So speaking to completing item 2.
Yeah, I would actually support if there was an alternate motion or if this one fails, completing the business, because I just don't think it's efficient. It's costly to bring all the staff back at 3 o'clock, and I don't think that we're that far off. And I believe we do have the ability to start the in-camera a bit later and still provide people with a break for lunch. So I would prefer that we push through.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. We could defeat that one and then bring it back. I'm just, Councillor Fry, I heard your question, but I'm wondering if we might be able to push through the business. It really doesn't look like we have very much after item 2. Here, Councillor Dominato.
I'm happy to withdraw the motion. I just want to just flag, though, I don't want it to preclude other councillors from participating. That's going through lunch. So it sounds like we have Councillor Fry is not able to participate. I guess I'm looking for clarity. If Councillor Fry can he not participate at all then as a result of us not taking a break? That's a question to Councillor Fry.
Councillor Humboldt.
We were to go till 12:30.
When you turn into the proverbial pumpkin. Sorry? We would. Okay, so you're withdrawing this motion? So
I'll withdraw the motion.
So.
One,
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so we have a motion to withdraw on the floor. All in favor? Councillor Jo seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Discussion? Okay. All right, so that is withdrawn. So can I get a second motion to complete business of the council meeting? Councillor Montague.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. We will carry on. So now we'll move on to item 2. All right. Public. So just we don't have anybody on the docket here now. So maybe we would like to hear now from registered speaker, Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, staff, or chair, sorry. Do we have a presentation from staff on this item?
Okay. We'll go to the presentation.
If we do have one, I would love to hear it.
Yeah. Okay, go right ahead.
Good afternoon. Celine Mobles, Managing Director of Housing and Homelessness Services. I've got a brief 5-minute presentation to provide an overview of the report for you today. Can we get the presentation up? All right, hopefully you can see that now. Showing. Can you see the presentation? It's on my... Okay, there we go, great. Thank you. So we have a brief presentation today. The purpose of the report is to recommend a minor amendment to the license bylaw to ensure that vacancy control policy aligns with the increased shelter component of income assistance of $500 a month. Staff are monitoring the implementation of the bylaw and will inform a more detailed council report update in Q3 of this year. Vacancy control was adopted in 2021 to slow rapidly rising rents in SRO buildings and to mitigate displacement into homelessness for many low-income tenants. As shown by the graph, the gap between average SRO rents and stagnant income assistance rates has significantly widened over time. Originally adopted in 2021, vacancy control was implemented through the Provincial Municipalities Enabling and Validating Act in 2024. The policy applies to roughly 4,000 non-government-owned SRA designated rooms. While the RTA governs rent increases during tenancies, vacancy control governs allowable rent increases between tenancies. The policy uses a tiered approach and, depending on the rent, allows rent increases between 3% to 8% at tenant turnover. The policy also allows owners to increase rents to recoup costs associated with capital investments needed to maintain their buildings. Owners submitted rent rolls in both July of this year and most recently in January. The slide here shows a snapshot of the January rent rolls. So 95% of building owners submitted rent rolls. And just to note, the stock is not homogeneous. And as you can see, there's a wide range of rents in the stock from as low as $183 per room to up to almost $2,800 per room per month. There are approximately 1,200 rooms renting below $500 per month. The shelter component of income assistance has increased from $375 to $500. The report recommendation before you today would align vacancy control policy with the increased provincial income assistance rates and would enable private owners and nonprofit owners to collect the maximum rent under the policy. Basically, as you can see here, the tiered approach that currently exists at the top of the screen, and basically by recommending the recommendation of the report today, the bylaw would be amended to move the rent restrictions for rooms renting under $500. So basically, any room renting less than $500 would be allowed to increase by 5% plus inflation, or to $500, whichever is higher at tenant turnover. Just in conclusion, staff are undertaking a number of concurrent work streams as shown on the slide, and a more detailed vacancy control monitoring and impact analysis will be brought back for potential further amendments and adjustments in Q3 2025. We have a number of staff that are here available to answer questions today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We have some questions from council here. Councillor Meisner.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. And thanks, Celine. I just wanted to get some, I guess, background information as to why we want to allow private SRO owners to be able to do this, to be able to increase the rent to $500. If you could explain that rationale.
Yeah, when we first implemented vacancy control, we looked at rents across the entire stock, in particular those buildings that were renting at the shelter component of income assistance. Now that the rate has changed from $375 to $500 for the shelter component of income assistance, by approving the recommended amendment to the bylaw, it would enable owners to maximize the rents that they are collecting under income assistance. So that has the potential to impact over 1,200 rooms and would ensure that owners are able to maintain their buildings and make other upgrades and just maximize the rents that they're able to collect.
Okay, so the strategy or the idea is that they'll be more inclined to make investments in the buildings.
Or have some more rents in order to do that. Yes.
Okay.
There is a provision to, if they're making significant capital investments, there is a provision to recoup some of those costs through increased rents as well.
Okay, over and above the.
Correct.
Okay. What sort of monitoring are we doing to track if they are making those investments? Like if this is actually having the desired impact?
Yeah, we are working closely with DBL and through our inspections. So we're looking at violations, maintenance. We also have some staff that are doing audits and doing checks of the property. So we are monitoring on a number of different points.
Okay, so that monitoring, if this passes, then that will be ongoing for a few
Correct.
years. Okay.
Correct, and we will be reporting back to council with a more fulsome analysis of our monitoring in Q3.
In Q3 of this year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Actually, one more question. What is the cadence of that, like update to council of that monitoring? I just want to make sure that this is going to actually have the affected or the intended impact.
Yeah, we've selected Q3 because it'll be a year since vacancy control was implemented, and reporting back annually on the stock, the numbers, and the changes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dominato.
That's okay. Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. One, I'm just noting that we have Wendy Peterson here with the SRO Collaborative. Just in bringing this forward, did we consult or engage with the collaborative?
Yes, we do. We certainly engage with the collaborative. They are in a number of privately owned buildings, and we engage with owners across the stock.
And then my second question, just to simplify what's being presented to council here, is effectively this is being brought forward simply to align with the change in shelter rate that the province has initiated and put in place.
That's correct. To align the
that's what's
policy.
triggered this. Okay.
To align the policy with the increase in the shelter component of income assistance.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to ask some clarifying questions here. So let me see if I have this straight. It's been 20 years, roughly, was it 2007? It said in the report, since the province adjusted the shelter rate from 375 to 500. Is that right?
2007, and then they increased the overall rate a few years ago, and then this most recent increase to the shelter component of income assistance was done in 2023.
Okay, so 16 years. Is it indexed to inflation? It's not. Is that right?
No.
Okay, so unless they change this regularly, people would lose pace with expenses. So, question. So then the city, the trajectory of this, implemented vacancy control to try to deal with the downstream impacts of the fact that the shelter rate was not sufficient?
The amendment before you today increases it to that base funding, $500 per month, to align with the shelter component of income assistance.
Bylaw, which has the vacancy control component, like from a policy perspective or a response point of view, was that really in response to the fact that the shelter rate was insufficient and we didn't want to lose the stock?
Yes, certainly, given rapidly rising rents, that even at $500, that is low.
Okay, and then that was challenged in a legal proceeding successfully, and the vacancy control only remains in place because the province used the big stick and enacted MIVA, the Municipal Enabling Validating Act. So the province funded insufficiently and then overturned a court decision by implementing MIVA. Is that right? Have I got this trail of trajectory of events in the right order?
Yes, the bylaw was enacted through MIVA, correct.
Okay. So we're dealing with a downstream situation of insufficient funding, but the city do we feel solid that the city is now continuing with this paradigm? And is the only enabling legal underpinning for that the fact that MIVA is in place? Otherwise, we would not be able to do this.
Paul, do you want to answer?
Councillor, I think yes. So the bylaw was overturned. The province then did step in using MIVA to essentially reimpose the bylaw. The city did not proceed with an appeal. So I think, or we did in fact appeal. So at this point, yeah, I mean, if your question is, are we relying on MIVA and the province's legislative intervention here, the answer is yes.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and this provides clarity. I know that the stock is some of the most affordable, and I would say better maintained in the private has been the Chinese society buildings. So this applies to them, and they would be one category of rooms that would see a benefit because of the historic nature of upkeeping those buildings has particular costs. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to leave my questions there for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay. So we'll now hear from registered speakers for this report. Public speakers should state whether they're in support or in opposition to the recommendations and may only speak once. I'll ask the speakers if they are residents of Vancouver, if it's not noted on the speaker list. Our first public speaker is Wendy Peterson. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Wendy Peterson. I'm speaking as the Executive Director of the Downtown Eastside SRO Collaborative Society. I brought a group of tenants with me today. They're among the 130 tenants who work at the SRO Collaborative on our mission in their buildings to improve habitability, affordability, sense of community and safety in their hotels across the 3,500 privately owned rooms in the Granville South area, downtown East Side, and Chinatown. So Richard and Marvin, they do barbecues in their building, connect with tenants, connect their neighbors to services. Richard's managing a community room that we're renting with a heat pump that we installed for tenants to stay cool in the summer. Cyril is one of many tenants who does friendly visiting with tenants at risk in his building and helps them with small repairs and cleaning to prevent evictions. Jean-Guy is a Firebolt's tenant. He does one of many tenants that does weekly fire safety checklists in their buildings, gets tenants to fire safety classes, developed a fire plan for his building, and organizes a yearly fire drill. So we made the trip to City Hall today to tell you that we are fully in support of this recommendation to support the landlords to rent the rooms at the new shelter rate upon turnover. Because welfare is at $500 for shelter or rent, we don't see this as a problem. As much as we would like to keep these rooms more affordable to seniors who don't have very much income, we think the landlords should have the option to bring the rents in line with the welfare shelter rate. We also want to express our gratitude to council for supporting the SRO vacancy control bylaw in May of 2024. When the bylaw was shot down in court a few years ago, we noticed the number of buildings emptying out jumped up significantly. Even the landlords who we saw as cooperative were rushing to push the tenants out, which was a dangerous new trend. Tenants were terrified and were wondering if their buildings would be next. By my count, we lost about 500 rooms in that time, in that period alone. In one of those hotels, I actually watched one tenant roll his suitcase out the door on his way to a shelter. But since May of 2024, there has been a lot of stability. And with this particular crisis off of our shoulders now, we're able to focus more on our mission, which is to improve the conditions and livability and safety for tenants and sense of community in these buildings. Just a couple of extra notes. It might be of interest for you to know that tenants in these 3,500 rooms, a lot of them have roommates now, and they're doubling up in rooms because of the housing crisis, which is deepening. Also, my last note is that these hotels are not just the last stop before homelessness, but they remain the first step. They're now a first step, or they remain a first step because of the vacancy control or the SRO vacancy control bylaw, so homeless people can move back in. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Wendy. Thank you for that report as well. Okay. Thanks very much. So that ends our speakers list. Would somebody like to move the motion, please? Councillor Fry, second, and Councillor Meisner. Okay, Councillor, is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, nobody on the queue here. We will just now take this to a vote. A reminder that any council member participating virtually whose video is disabled will be marked absent for the vote pursuant to the section of 1413 of the procedure bylaw. I'm now going to call the vote. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Chair, I think there's an issue with tech online because all the video has been lost and I don't have a voting panel. Okay. There's our new tech is not working today.
I can do vote assist for you, Councillor.
Yes, can I have a vote assist in favor, please?
Okay, very good. Okay, so that passes with all present in support. Thanks very much. That completes report 2. Okay, so now we will go to report 4, street naming, new streets, and street extensions. In the River District, Mayfair West, Oakridge Transit Center, Heatherlands, and the Granville Loops developments. And before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Thanks very much, staff and speakers, for coming in today. Okay, this item does not have a presentation. Council members, you have up to 5 minutes to ask any questions of team members. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will now hear from registered speakers for this report. Public speakers should state whether they are in support or opposition of the recommendations and may only speak once. I'll also ask speakers if they are residents of Vancouver if it is not noted on the speakers list. Our first public speaker is Christopher Chambers. Is Christopher here? Okay, just confirming that the speaker is not here. So that is the, Councillor Dominato?
If the speaker's not here, I prepare to move the recommendation.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Okay. Council members, are there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we're going to call the vote. Please take us to the voting screen. And Councillor Kirby-Young, do you need the vote assist?
Just 1 second, Chair. And just so that you know, too, as a point of privilege, the screens are flashing on the public. Like there's 10 to 15 screens coming up, even on the public YouTube. Like
Yes.
There's something very odd going on with the chat.
Yeah, a little bit of gremlins as we move to the new system, I think. So, but
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that passes unanimously with all present in favor. Okay, so that concludes report 4. And I think we are now moving on to questions from Councillor Dominato on referral report 3. I think we're ready to go. Okay. Oh, sorry. We'll just wait for you to come back on. Here, I'll put you on. Here we go. Councillor, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. And just double checking we have all the planning staff for this question. Yes.
Oh, one moment. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. So a couple of procedural questions just with this referral report. Last January, there was direction moved and supported by council on a couple of items around engaging with landowners to explore opportunities to increase the percentage of below market rental housing through provincial and federal support. The council also direct staff to work with the landowners to increase the use of mass timber in the Jericho lands development wherever possible to enhance the project's sustainability and low carbon footprint. There was direction that those items there be report back on the above at each rezoning phase. And then further, there was direction to work with landowners to explore and encourage the relocation of existing barracks housing on the site at the appropriate development phase or phases. And also request that there be reports back at each rezoning phase. And in reviewing the ODP, I'm not entirely clear that those have been addressed. And so it is a procedural question, is this ready to be referred in light of these council directions a year ago? And I may have missed a memo, and I would appreciate if I did miss a memo on these items, please let me know. I'm particularly interested in the first two around the below market rental and the mass timber. So if staff could maybe address those questions.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor, for the questions. So the Jericho ODP has been prepared at the request of the MST partnership and through council direction when council adopted the policy statement. So the ODP essentially mirrors the policy statement and embeds certain provisions from that into an ODP bylaw. Subsequent to council adoption of an ODP, we would then expect the preparation of the phase 1 rezoning application for the Jericho lands, which we expect would be submitted late this year, early next year. And so through that rezoning process, including pre-application and application, we would expect those discussions to be happening in earnest, both on the mass timber piece. We've had some early discussions with the landowner and our sustainability colleagues, and also on the below market rental, including potential partnerships with senior governments. So this ODP is a step working towards that first rezoning application, but that's really when those items would be addressed in earnest.
Okay, so it's, I guess I just want to be crystal clear that those discussions would still take place, or would you need, I guess procedural question, would there need to be further direction at the time of public hearing on these items? Or it's understood that this was adopted by council to engage landowners on these points?
So we do not need further direction. So the direction we received from council in January of 2024, we would then take that forward in reviewing the first, the phase 1 rezoning application and future rezonings for the rest of the site.
Okay, and would we then anticipate in that first phase that we would see more specific reference to these items? I know there is a reference to the partnerships provincially and federally on the below market housing, but I saw nothing about mass timber and really advancing that in the ODP. So we would actually see some specific reference to these items?
That's correct. So as part of the staff report for the first rezoning application, that's where we would get into specifics around all of the topics that you mentioned that we have direction from specifically to address.
Okay, that satisfied. I just was concerned I hadn't seen those addressed, and I wanted to ensure that before it was referred that there was a process for that. So
for sure,
appreciate that. That addresses my procedural questions. Thank you, Chair. Happy to move it unless there's people on the queue. Oh, there's other people on the queue. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Counselor. I just wanted, I neglected to make sure that if anyone has a conflict of interest, they should declare it now. And if there is no declared conflict of interest, we'll continue on. And Counselor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. I'm seeking a little clarification around the Bill 18. And so since we approved the policy direction, Bill 18, which I think suggests that with the approval of an ODP, and I realize that this is going forward for public hearing, does Bill 18 mean that there would not be any further public hearings on the individual rezonings, or how does that going to work, and why isn't it articulated in this? Because we're getting a lot of letters that suggest it needs some clarification.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor. So Bill 18 essentially puts in place amended requirements around public hearings in relation to official development plans, stemming from the direction to create a citywide official development plan. For Jericho, we're doing this for the Jericho site in advance. And what Bill 18 sets out is that for a rezoning application that complies with an official development plan that contains 50% or more of floor area as residential, that public hearings are prohibited. That being said, the rezoning still goes through a full rezoning process, staff review, public engagement, notification, collecting feedback from the public, but it would be considered at a council meeting rather than a public hearing. Members of the public can submit written correspondence at that council meeting, but they cannot speak to the item like they do at public hearings. And I'll also add those provisions will be in place citywide for rezonings following council adoption of the citywide ODP by June of next year.
So, okay, so the public hearing that this will be referred to will be the only public hearing on this matter, effectively.
If those future rezonings comply with those criteria set out by Bill 18.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Kirby-Young, you're on the queue. Muted.
No, Chair, I'm not. It's apparently one of the gremlins.
Okay, right. Very good. Okay. Councillor Domina, seconded by Councillor Montague. Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. We'll call the vote then, please. And that passes unanimously. Thanks very much, Council. We'll move on to bylaws, item 11. We have 20 bylaws on the agenda for enactment, And before we begin this agenda, does anyone believes they have a conflict of interest? Now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to disclose? Council members who were absent for the meetings related to the public hearing enactment bylaws must confirm that they have reviewed the proceedings of the meetings, including the video clip, to be eligible to vote. Now, I'm seeing that Councillor Bly is not on the, she has a leave of absence. Okay, then we will move to, skip to bylaw 5. One moment. Bylaw 5, sorry. Councillor Fry, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on enactment? Okay, thanks very much. Okay. Just moving through here. Bylaw 17 was from the public hearing on June 29, 2023. Councillors Bly, Montague, and Mayor Sim were absent for this item public hearing. However, on February 25th, 2025, Councillors Bly, Montague advised that they had reviewed the proceedings, were eligible to vote. Bylaw 19 was from public hearing on July 7th, 2022. Councillors Klassen, Meisner, and Montague and Joe and Mayor Sim were not on council at the time of the public hearing. However, on February 25th, 2025, Councillors Klassen, Meisner, Montague, and Joe advised they had reviewed the proceedings, were eligible to vote. Would someone like to move the motion to adopt bylaws 1 through 20?
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Councillors, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Any of those say nay? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. The list of approved bylaws can be found on the city's website. All right, we're moving on to item 12, miscellaneous amendments, various land use documents. Before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict to disclose? Council, are there questions for the team for members? Seeing none, can I get a mover? Councillor Joe, seconded by Councillor Montague. Council, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say yay. And those opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 13. Notice of council member motions. Are there any notices of council member motions for upcoming standing committee meetings? I'm going to give you a nudge. Is there anybody for upcoming? Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's a notice of motion for the April 2nd Standing Committee. It's submitted by myself, and the title is Supporting Local Businesses, a Proactive Approach to Retail Security.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, so I will be away at the next council meeting of April 1st and 2nd. So I am submitting these notice of motions for April 16th, and there's 4 of them. So for the council meeting on April 16th, submitted by me on behalf of the Renters Advisory Committee. Number 1 is strengthening tenant relocation and protection policy in Vancouver. Number 2 is advocating for pet-friendly rental housing. And then for the council meeting April 16th, submitted by me, enhanced tools for standard of property maintenance. And the second one is catalyzing support for feline control services in Vancouver. Catalyzing support.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, are there any other new items of new business, Council? Okay, we'll move on to, yeah, okay, sorry. Don't want to jump too quickly here. Councillor Dominato.
I don't know if the staff clerks want to present the LOAs first. I need to amend one of mine.
Okay.
And it is to amend, do you want to, clerks, did you want to move them first and then I can?
Okay.
Or I can move them? I'll move them.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor.
Tomorrow, March 12th, 1 p.m. Onwards, it's not for personal reasons, it's for civic businesses. I'm attending the LGLA in Richmond. So that could be noted.
Okay. Clerk, how would we like to approach that? Just make the amendment on the floor?
I mean, I can submit it, but it's, yeah.
Okay, we'll just take a moment to do that.
Thank you. I'll just send that in In an email.
Council, can I get a seconder on that amendment, please? Councillor Montague. Thank you.
Sorry, I just sent that.
Go. Okay, so we have, you can see on your screen, Council. So we have an amendment. We have a mover and a seconder. Can we just get a call to vote on that one? All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thanks very much. Okay, so we will go back and vote on the main motion for the LOA. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay. Thanks very much. Councillor Dominato, that's
That's it. Thank
very
you.
good. Vince, okay. Anybody else for any new business items? Okay, we'll move on to inquiries and other matters. Councillor, are there any inquiries or other matters? Okay, seeing none. Then can I get a Councillor Montague, seconder, Councillor Meisner, all those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff.